Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me on this fine Thursday evening to talk Notre Dame defensive recruiting. Marcus Freeman is the real deal. Nobody's going to dispute that. Nobody's going to say otherwise. But I think the defense is going to need to carry Notre Dame if they want to finish in the top 5, 6, 7, 8. My goal for Notre Dame this year is to finish number 8 in the composite 247 team rankings. That's a goal. It's a lofty goal. You're going to have to beat out a bunch of elite or semi-elite teams. I'd put Notre Dame in the semi-elite category right now. But winning one or two more games like that Clemson game this fall, winning a playoff semifinal game, and then, of course, winning the national championship, I think that would elevate them to elite status. But I want to talk about all the positions. I made a defensive line and linebacker separate video about a month ago, and then same thing with the DBs. Today, though, I'm going over everything, and there are some new names to know. So here we go. Before I get into it, make sure you like and subscribe. That helps out a lot. I don't make money from these videos. I do it just out of pure passion. And the likes and the comments, they really brighten my day in. I try to respond to all of them. Greatly appreciated. But here we go. Cyrus Moss, defensive end from Bishop Gorman High School in Vegas. I do see Cyrus Moss coming out for a visit, but let's be honest, I don't think it's too likely that he ends up Irish. Clemson, Bama, Oklahoma are 3 teams. Oregon 2, 4 teams to really know here. Had one of the coolest top 11 shirts of all time, or top 11 announcements of all time, excuse me. He had a shirt, a Nike branded, all that stuff shirt with his top 11 schools. Pretty much all of them were perennial top 20, top 25 teams, and then Michigan State was on there, which was a little bit of a shocker. But Cyrus Moss, super talented, top 100 on both 247 and Rivals. He's a guy to know for sure. Right now, I'd put Notre Dame in maybe 5th. Tevin Safidi is a kid that I am super duper high on. He's going to play Viper Edge for the Irish. Did not get to play his junior season. Has been putting on weight. I believe he's up to about 225 now. Still at 6'3". Is from Hawaii, so you know Brian Polian's after him. Mike Elston doing a great job in this recruitment. Will he be a take, though? I don't know. Will he be an option, I should say, more? He's talented, but I think Notre Dame is prioritizing guys like DJ Wesolak and Ernest Cooper. And then how many more edge guys will they take? They already have Tyson Ford and Aiden Gobiara. Aiden Gobiara is playing a junior like no other. I have to say, shout out to him. I've been watching some of his highlights in these first 3 games. He's over there in Virginia, and oh my goodness, he could legitimately be a top 100 player in the next rankings. Such a stud. But back to Tafidi. Super talented. Not sure if he'll be available, though. Wesolak, though, is a guy that I could really, really see ending up in this Notre Dame class. Since the time of filming this video, he does have a FutureCast pick to Notre Dame, or the time of getting this video all set up. I actually set up this video maybe a week ago, 2 weeks ago. I believe it was 2 weeks ago. And a FutureCast pick was put in for him to end up at Notre Dame. Just heads up there, but Wesolak, super talented. I believe him and Tyson Ford will be getting up to Notre Dame in the coming weeks. And if they do, I like Wesolak to commit pretty much on the spot. Him and Tyson Ford are good friends. A trip like that would definitely bond them together. And he's already been FaceTiming Nolan Ziegler and other members of the class here and there. So he definitely has that connection with his possible future classmates. And then, interesting note, he's played Madden with Marcus Freeman. Definitely a random nugget there, but Madden 21, the game on Xbox and PS4, he plays video games with Marcus Freeman, so you know they're close. But yeah, Ernest Cooper is a guy that definitely deserves and warrants a higher ranking than a 5'7". Had a solid junior year for Martin High School in Arlington, Texas. A few teams that are involved here that I should note are Stanford and Notre Dame. Pretty steep cutoff after that, but I think Stanford will win this one as of now. Warmer climate, a little bit better academics, solid football team. But if Notre Dame pushes, Mike Elston especially has a close relationship with him, as he does with all these defensive line targets, I think Notre Dame would win out. Now, these last two are guys I don't see ending up in this Notre Dame class. Alex Bauman was considered a Notre Dame lean at first. He was offered back when Clark Lee was defensive coordinator. No shot to Clark Lee. Bauman is the younger brother to Kevin Bauman, current Notre Dame tight end, but I just don't think he's at Notre Dame's level. I think he could be a possible preferred walk-on, but he's good enough to get a full ride to a Power 5 school. I'm not going to hate on him. The likes of Wake Forest and Rutgers are after him. Pitt is on him as well, but I don't think he ends up in this class. Notre Dame doesn't have room. Notre Dame has better options, etc. Isaac Ham, I don't think he's been in contact with Notre Dame much. He was a lot in the fall and over last summer. But I'm surprised he hasn't committed to Wisconsin by now. I think he could in the next coming weeks or months. Isaac Ham, not really a guy in the picture anymore. Going to the inside guys, Anthony Lucas, Caleb Artis, and Donovan Heinisch are the three to know. Notre Dame currently has 0 inside guys committed. That's assuming Gobiara and Ford stay on the edge, which I think they will. I'm expecting at least one, probably two. I think they're going to take one more edge guy, maybe two. If they take 2 edge guys, I'd assume only one inside guy. But yeah, right now, Anthony Lucas is my number 1 target if I'm Notre Dame, and I think they're right with me on that. But they're going to be battling Bama, Oklahoma, UCLA, Arizona State for his services. Do they come out on top? Maybe. Donovan Heinisch. If Notre Dame misses on Lucas, Heinisch ends up in this class. So they're in a good spot with both. And then Caleb Artis is interesting. I think Heinisch is a guy, even if he commits elsewhere, if Notre Dame swoops in November, October, January, or December to say, hey, we want you in this class now. Lucas is going elsewhere and he's solid there. Artis is going elsewhere and he's solid there. He'll commit. Artis is in a weird spot because he is a top target for many schools like Auburn, Indiana, Ole Miss, Rutgers, Penn State. So he can get that, but he definitely values education. Super tight bond with Mike Elston. And I think he's an Notre Dame kid when push comes to shove. But it really depends what Anthony Lucas does. And I'm going to be honest. He's ranked the number 26th player in the country via 247 Sports rankings. I don't know if he's that high. I'd put him maybe in the 100 to 250, 225 range. But I love his game regardless. And he's going to be a big-time player wherever he plays his college ball. Niuafe Tuhulimaka, I believe I got that right. Is an absolute stud. I love his game. I think he warrants the number 71 player in the country via Rivals. Has not played his junior season yet, and things are looking good on the Notre Dame side of things recruiting-wise. Decommitted from USC back in January, a few days after he landed that Notre Dame offer. He said it was not because of the Notre Dame offer. He said, I've been praying on this. I've been thinking this through. It was just the right time to do it. Has a top 5 of Arizona State, Oregon, Texas, Notre Dame, and one other school that is completely blowing my mind right now. But this one's looking solid for Notre Dame. I'm not really worried at this point. If he could get to campus over a spring break or over a weekend or something, I think that would close the deal. Now, he might be waiting until the summer to take a visit, which is very well fine. He might do that, but Notre Dame will have a spot for him no matter what. This is a big-time player and a big-time get if he does end up in Notre Dame. Kip Lewis is a guy that is really being targeted by 4 schools: Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Notre Dame, and Texas. I think Notre Dame's in 4th right now, and I don't think Notre Dame is really in the position to get him. They have better targets, in my opinion, ahead of him, in Sebastian Cheeks and Niuafe Tuhulimaka. They currently have Nolan Ziegler and Joshua Burnham committed, 2 guys who I think will stay committed. And then let's say Cheeks or Tuhulimaka go elsewhere, you can get Davon Jackson. And Notre Dame might even take a 5th linebacker. They might. It's really up in the air. I don't know numbers. The only people that do are the people inside of the Goog. But if they take a 5th, I'm confident Snelling or Jackson will be back on the board. But yeah, Kip Lewis, super talented. I'm a big fan of his game, but not sure if he ends up in Notre Dame. Sebastian Cheeks is a guy that has been in Notre Dame lean for pretty much 5-6 months now, maybe even 7. Super distraught when Clark Lee left for Vandy, but that didn't impact too much didn't impact it too much because Marcus Freeman got right on him and it stayed right on him. He's visible, or he's very vocal about committing over the summer. He wants to finish out his junior season. Completely fine. I think Notre Dame will still have a spot for him no matter what. But I think Notre Dame values Tuihalamaka more than Cheeks, in all honesty. I think both these guys are big-time players, though, and will be big-time players if they do end up at Notre Dame. Last two linebackers to know about. Davon Jackson from Omaha, Nebraska, has a top 5 of Texas A&M, Arizona State, Miami, Oklahoma, and Notre Dame. Notre Dame's definitely in the lead right now. I'm confident in saying that. I don't really know who's in the second and third. Really up in the air. I think most people would expect him to come to Notre Dame, but I think Notre Dame might have their spots filled. In a regular year, like last year, I think he'd end up in this class. But hey, things happen. Notre Dame has a ton of targets just higher on the board than him. But I'm a huge fan of Davon Jackson. Love to see him in this class, just not sure if numbers will work out like that. And then Robbie Snelling, the final linebacker, was committed to Stanford for baseball. Decommitted because I don't think they were huge on him playing football there, but he's back on the market, official. I think Notre Dame leads, but I'm not sure if Notre Dame is pushing too hard right now, and I'm not sure he ends up in this class. I think Notre Dame values Kip Lewis and Davon Jackson ahead of him. I think he's going to get the wrong side of that. In a year like last year, I think he'd probably be in this class, but so many top guys. Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman are recruiting these defensive guys, especially these linebackers like crazy. This might be Notre Dame's best linebacker class ever. Just crazy. Now, 3 more linebackers. Leonard Barton. Notre Dame isn't talking to him that much. They like his game a lot. They're a big fan of him. They definitely like him more than his rating says. But this one's looking like a foregone conclusion. I expect him to go to Utah, where both of his parents went and his 2 older siblings went. Both played sports there. Jalen Sneed is an interesting guy. When he got offered, I didn't think Notre Dame would make much of a push, but his high school coach happens to be good friends with Marcus Freeman. So super interesting note there. That could help Notre Dame out. He was super pumped about that Bama offer. Not sure how hard Bama is pushing, though. Let's say Sneed gets up to campus over his spring break this late March or April. Let's say he gets to Notre Dame for a visit and is still uncommitted and undecided. I could see Notre Dame winning this recruitment. I do think Sneed is valued higher than guys like Kip Lewis, Robbie Snelling, Lander Barton, Davon Jackson. So I could really see Sneed in this class. We'll see what happens, though. Right now, I think he's pretty much undecided. David Bailey is a guy, I think that's an Alabama-USC battle. Notre Dame made a push. I'm not sure if they're still talking to him. Interesting kid, does not have social media. I remember when he got offered, I'm like, he doesn't have a Twitter. What the heck? What? But David Bailey, super talented, definitely warrants that 59th national rating. And big fan of his game as well. Notre Dame is just loaded with linebacker targets. And now we're moving on to, in my opinion, the most exciting part of Notre Dame's defensive recruiting target board, the DBs, especially the corners. Kamari Rogers, Jyaire Brown, these two get me hyped up to talk Notre Dame football. You have Jaden Mickey, committed. And you have these other guys who are all in the top 200, 300 in the country. But just seeing guys like Jyaire Brown, who's lived in Louisiana for a lot of his life, and seeing guys like Kamari Rogers, who is from Central Mississippi and might end up at Notre Dame, that is just crazy. I'll start with Kamari, number 47 in the country. Super humble, super smart, super Notre Dame-like. I love his game. I think he warrants the top 50 rating. He's on an island out there in 7-on-7 camps. He is one hell of a football player. I do think Ole Miss leads at this moment. I think Miami's right up there with Notre Dame. But honestly, heck, I think it could be Notre Dame in the lead. I think it's Notre Dame, Miami, and Ole Miss at his top right now. He said he would like to take officials to those three, including Mississippi State, but I'm not sure if Mississippi State can do much. But I could very well see him ending up at Notre Dame, which would just be crazy. Jyaire Brown is a guy that, let's be honest, he's been a little bit indecisive. Looked like an LSU lock, ended up at Ohio State, and now he could flip to Notre Dame. I don't really think he knows where he wants to go. But let's say Kamari's like, hey, I want to go to Notre Dame. They're pretty much best friend guys, if you didn't know that. Jyaire Brown and Kamari Rogers. If Kamari says, hey, I think I want to go to Notre Dame, come with me, I think Jyaire will. Notre Dame has 2 corner spots open, and they would love to fill those 2 with their top-of-the-board guys in Jyaire Brown and Kamari Rogers. Marcus Freeman has an incredible relationship with both, and they've been doing calls together, which is kind of a special thing, kind of a cool thing. They play on the same 7-on-7 team, the LA Bootleggers. I watch a ton of their highlight videos on YouTube, actually. I recommend checking them out. 7-on-7 camps are kind of the new wave for you older viewers. They are essentially offense and defense with no defensive line and no offensive line. You have a few seconds to throw the ball as the quarterback, and corners, linebackers. That's kind of how it rolls. A lot of wide receivers. It's a lot of speed, a lot of flash. But in the offseason, they're super fun, and there are tournaments going on pretty much every weekend around the country. So, yeah. Keenan Nelson, another guy Notre Dame fans didn't know about. I definitely think he's overranked. I'm going to be completely honest. I also think this is Penn State's to lose. I think they're in the lead right now. But, hey, it's early. He has only released the top 7. At this current moment, my pick is Penn State. Notre Dame doesn't seem to be making a huge push there. And then Jaden Gold is an interesting one. If you were to ask me a few weeks ago, I think it could be Notre Dame. But I'd have to lean Michigan again now. He's developed a good relationship with Maurice Linguist, the DB's coach over there at Michigan. He was with the Dallas Cowboys before that. I could really see him at either Notre Dame or Michigan, but at this current juncture, I have to go Michigan. And I also just think Notre Dame would only take 3 corners. It took a bunch last year. And landing guys like Jyaire Brown, though, and Kamari Rogers should not upset any Notre Dame fans. If you land a corner trio of Jyaire Brown, Kamari Rogers, and Jaden Mickey, you cannot be mad at that. You just can't. You just can't. Terrence Brooks, Texas A&M legacy, top of the board guy though for Notre Dame. I definitely could see Notre Dame making a push here if things don't work out with Brown and Rogers. But right now, I like him ending up with the Aggies. I also want to point out Notre Dame could take 44 corners for all I know. But right now, I think they take 3. I think Terrence Brooks ends up at Texas A&M. McKay Martinez is a guy from Orlando. And I think Notre Dame leads. I think it's really between Clemson and Notre Dame at this point. Those 2 are surging ahead. He has been to campus twice. He was in South Bend for a game last fall, a game I went to, actually, the Navy game. And he's been in really good contact ever since. Marcus Freeman's been on him. They have a good relationship. So I could really see this going either Clemson's way or Notre Dame's way. Unofficial top 2, by the way. Jaden Mickey, I actually meant to cross him out. Sorry, I still have him. He is currently committed to Notre Dame, and I like that pledge staying. So sorry about that. Ephesians Price Hawk, great name. Notre Dame name for sure. I think USC leads. I think many people would agree with me. He released a top 10 or 12, I forget, about a week ago. I believe it was 10. Notre Dame made the cut. I think he is a top-of-the-board corner guy for Notre Dame. I just don't think they're going to be able to pull him. He did say, though, Nuwafe's commitment will definitely impact his. He says if Nuwafe goes – he didn't say Notre Dame in specific, but if Nuwafe goes to Notre Dame, that might pull me to the Irish as well. So that's something to know with Ephesians Price Hawk. Benjamin Morrison, not a top-of-the-board guy in my opinion, just got a Bama offer actually. He released a top 10 of – I'm not even going to go into the names. Top 10's a lot to name, but Notre Dame made the cut. It's from Phoenix. Don't see him ending up in the Notre Dame class. I really don't know where he's going at this point. Jaden Bellamy is a guy who I'm not a huge fan of. I'm going to be completely honest. I like his game, but I just don't think he's a Notre Dame guy unless all your other top targets left. Rutgers, I think, is in the lead right now with Notre Dame trailing just behind, very close. But pretty sure his dad was a former Rutgers player. I believe his dad is a coach as well. And yeah, Rutgers, Notre Dame here. Not a huge fan of this game. I'd much rather have guys like Kamari Rogers and Jyaire Brown, in all honesty. Davison Igbinosun is a guy who also I think Notre Dame or Rutgers leads for. His older brother is currently on the Scarlet Knights, and he's a New Jersey guy. If Notre Dame pushes, they will land. He was offered back when Clark Lee was defensive coordinator, and I thought then he would be a guy Notre Dame would end up getting. But Marcus Freeman has just brought a whole different vibe and energy to this South Bend recruiting group. And I don't know if he's a guy that they're so high on anymore. I will say that Cincinnati offered him maybe 2 days after Notre Dame did, or once Marcus Freeman got on. So Marcus Freeman was definitely looking after him when he was at Cincinnati. And then Rylan Gandy, the last corner I'll touch on. He can also play safeties from Buford, Georgia. Not really sure where he's going to end up. I really don't. I think it's probably Nebraska. Indiana's involved. Arkansas's involved. Michigan State's involved. Not a top-of-the-board guy, not a guy I see ending up in this class. Now we're talking safeties. A lot of names to know, and this is one of the more intriguing positional groups recruiting-wise. Cooper Baracate was a guy, once he got that offer, I was pretty sold he would end up at Notre Dame. Didn't happen that way. Also, I will note he goes to Mater Dei as a teammate with C.J. Wilson and Trey Edwards, 2023 linebacker, who I will touch on in tomorrow's video. But Cooper Baracate, dad played ball at dad went to UCLA, has all the big-time academic school offers, Harvard, Columbia. At this current moment, I could see him going to UCLA. If he does land a USC offer, though, they definitely rise to that unofficial top 3 alongside UCLA and the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame. Emory Floyd, definitely underranked. I like him more than a 5'7". Florida State, Georgia, Florida are 3 schools to know here. I do like him ending up at Georgia, though. He is from just outside Atlanta. Notre Dame was a little late to the party, but I think Notre Dame also likes other guys more. He's not a top-of-the-board guy. Jaden Managam, I don't even know how to say his name. Michigan State, Michigan, Notre Dame are, I guess, an unofficial top 3 for him. Michigan pretty much has 1 more DB spot, 2 more DB spots open. I'm not sure if he's a top-of-the-board guy for them, but if he is, I like him ending up there. I do think he's a top-of-the-board guy, though, safety-wise for Notre Dame. Notre Dame, if I were to give a top-of-the-board ranking, I'd say KJ Winston, Jaden Mangam, and I don't know, maybe just those 2. Those 2 might be guys that if they said to Marcus Freeman, hey, I want to commit right now, will you let me in? Marcus Freeman would say yes. No clear leader in that recruitment, though. Visits will play a huge part. He will be on a visit to West Virginia, I will say, in early June. Jake Pope is a guy who looked like Notre Dame was in the lead for early. Ended up getting some notable offers from Bama, Auburn. If Clemson offers, I do think he lands at Clemson, though, as his dad played ball there. But UNC is also involved. I guess an unofficial top 5, he released a top 12. An unofficial top 5 would be Georgia, Bama, Auburn, Notre Dame, and UNC. And then you have to figure Clemson is in that group as well if they offer. KJ Winston, guy from DeMatha High School. Teammates with Jonathan Moore, another guy we'll talk about tomorrow. And KJ Winston definitely exceeds his 5'6" ranking. He will be playing his spring ball starting in the next few weeks. I think Notre Dame leads here, and I do think he ends up in this class. I'm confident in saying that. I think he is a guy that could commit without visiting, and I think he is a guy that could commit in the next maybe month. Definitely a guy Notre Dame fans need to keep an eye on, watch out for. I'm a big fan of his game. True athlete, can play multiple positions. Also has some big-time offers. Oklahoma is on that sheet, so don't rule him off. Devin Moore is a guy that Notre Dame is a sneaky contender for. He has Stanford and I believe Duke on his top 7, so you know he's smart. You know he's a student athlete. Right now, I think it's probably Florida in the lead. My pick is in for Florida. We'll see what happens, though. You never know. It's Marcus Freeman. And then the last 2 guys are, I think, the 1 and 2 safety targets, the 1A guys. Those 2 being Xavier Nwankpa and Sherrod Coble. I want to start with Coble. I think it's Michigan, Notre Dame, Virginia Tech out in front. I do like him to end up there at Notre Dame or Michigan. Right now, not really sure where. I'm torn on if he ends up in this class. I think a visit to Notre Dame would play a huge role in him ending up in this class. I don't think he would commit before a visit. He will be staying patient. He has said, though, he will release a top group coming up in the next few weeks, so be in the watch out for that. And then Nwankpa is definitely, without a doubt, one of the bigger targets offensively and defensively. When you look at it, he's from Central Iowa. Has offers from these big-time schools. This is the recruitment Notre Dame can win, but not so fast. He's playing 7-on-7 ball with some Ohio State guys. He's good friends with some Ohio State guys. Sean McCullough, one to know. And he's looking like an Ohio State lean right now. I'm going to be completely honest. I would put a pick in for Ohio State if I could. I can't, but I guess my fan future cast is in for the Buckeyes. Nwankpa, it was good having you at the top of the board, but I think in the next coming weeks / months he will be in Ohio State's class. I will also say that today, this is March 18th, I'm making this video, he visited Texas A&M. He was seeing some family for a spring break in Texas, and he decided to swing by Texas A&M, so you have to think that helps them out. A few other schools involved: Iowa, Iowa State, Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame, Iowa State, yeah. All right, thank you guys for watching the video. I'll scroll back a little bit to show you guys all the other positions if you missed them. Make sure you like, subscribe. That helps out a ton. I will be back tomorrow with a 2023 video, fresh off Notre Dame's Pot of Gold 2023 day. That will definitely be exciting. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Like and subscribe, do all that good stuff. Comment. I respond to all comments. And peace out.